Mr. Nervous by Roger Hargreaves. When you hear this sound, turn the page. Poor Mr. Nervous was frightened of everything and anything. At the slightest little thing, he would quiver and tremble and shake and turn to jelly. So it's not really surprising to find that Mr. Nervous lives as far away from anybody as he can, in the middle of the woods, miles and miles from anywhere. This story begins one morning when Mr. Nervous was asleep. It was a beautiful autumn morning. The sun was shining. The leaves on the trees had turned to a glorious red, and the wind stirred gently in the treetops. A single leaf fell gently from the tree right outside Mr. Nervous's house and quietly brushed against his bedroom window as it fell. Mr. Nervous awoke with a start.
"What's that terrible noise?"
he cried.
"Oh, heavens, the house is falling down. Oh, disaster, it's an earthquake. Oh, calamity, it's the end of the world."
And he hid under the bedclothes, trembling with fright. After an hour, by which time he realized that his house wasn't falling down, and there wasn't an earthquake, and the world wasn't coming to an end, Mr. Nervous peeped out from under the bedclothes. "Whew," he said. "Thank goodness for that." And he got up and went downstairs to make his breakfast. Mr. Nervous poured some cornflakes out of a box into a bowl. Then he poured some milk onto the cornflakes. Then he went to the cupboard to get some sugar. Snap, crackle, pop went the cornflakes in the milk.
"Oh, goodness gracious,"
cried Mr. Nervous, diving under the kitchen table.
"Oh, dear, I hear guns. Oh, calamity, it's war."
But of course it wasn't. And of course Mr. Nervous eventually came out from under the table and ate up all his cornflakes. After breakfast, Mr. Nervous thought that he'd go for a walk. He was walking through the woods which surround his house when a worm poked his head out of the ground. "Morning," said the worm cheerfully to Mr. Nervous. Mr. Nervous nearly jumped out of his skin.
"What?"
he shouted.
"Who's there?"
And then he saw the worm.
"Oh, good heavens! It's a snake! Oh, dear! A man-eating snake! Oh, calamity! I'm going to be eaten alive!"
And he jumped up into a tree. "What a performance," commented the worm, and went back into his hole. After an hour, Mr. Nervous felt brave enough to climb down from the tree and continue his walk. Eventually, he came out at the other side of the woods and into a field. Mr. Nervous glanced around nervously. It was an empty field. Or was it? In the tall grass in the middle of the field, unseen by Mr. Nervous, there was a vagabond enjoying a nap in the autumn sunshine. Mr. Nervous picked his way cautiously through the grass. The vagabond, fast asleep, snored.
"What was that?"
shrieked Mr. Nervous.
"It's a lion. I heard it growl. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, dear me. A lion. A huge lion. A huge lion with enormous teeth. A huge lion with enormous teeth that's going to bite me in two. A huge, ferocious lion with enormous sharp teeth that's going to bite me in two, if not three."
And he fainted. All this commotion awakened the vagabond, who yawned, stretched, sat up, and saw Mr. Nervous lying on the ground beside him. "Oh, dear," he said, for he was a kindly vagabond. "Oh, dear." And he picked up Mr. Nervous and placed him gently in the palm of his hand. Mr. Nervous came to and sat up, rubbing his eyes. Then he saw the vagabond's face looking at him.
"Oh, disaster!"
He screamed.
"Oh, calamity! It's a giant, an ogre! Oh, gracious! He's going to have me for breakfast!"
My, said the vagabond gently. "You're a nervous little chap, aren't you? What's your name?"
"Mr. Nervous,"
stammered Mr. Nervous. "I used to be nervous like you," said the vagabond, "but I learned how not to be. Would you like me to tell you the secret?" Mr. Nervous quivered and shook his head and said,
"Yes, please."
"It's very simple," continued the vagabond. "All you have to do is count to 10, and you'll find that whatever is frightening you isn't quite so frightening after all." Then he put Mr. Nervous down gently on the grass. "Remember," he said to Mr. Nervous, "count to 10. And off he went. Mr. Nervous thought that it would be a very good idea if he went home immediately. Back across the field he went. Back through the woods he went. He was walking through the woods when he stepped on a little twig. Snap went the twig.
Mr. Nervous jumped twice as high as himself in terror. "What was that?"
he shrieked.
"That terrible snapping noise. It's a tree falling down that's going to crush me to pieces. Oh, calamity! It's a crocodile hiding in the bushes, snapping its teeth. Oh, disaster! It's..."
And then he stopped. He took a deep breath.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
he said. And he saw that what had gone snap was a twig. A silly old twig. "Whew," he said. Mr. Nervous had almost reached his house when a leaf drifted down gently from a tree and landed on his head.
"Help! Police! Murder!" he screamed. "I'm being kidnapped. Oh, calamity! It's ruffians with guns. They're going to..."
And then he stopped.
He took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And then he saw that what had fallen on him was only a leaf. Nothing but a leaf. A stupid red leaf. "It works," he said out loud in wonderment. And do you know, it did work. After that moment, Mr. Nervous became a changed man. Well, you can see that by looking at him, can't you? And he never shrieks, or shouts, or screams, or quivers, or shakes, or trembles anymore. And he never hides under the bedclothes anymore. Well, not very often anyway.
Get to sleep now, shadows on the ceiling. Everybody's saying it's just a paint that's peeling, but it's creeping down my neck now. I am such a wreck now. Help! I'm like jelly. Help! I'm shaking just like jelly. That was a close nose call. I am feeling better. I know that's ketchup dripping off my sweater. Nothing's gonna scare me. What is that big hairy? Help!
Hey, come on, man. Grab a hold of yourself. Just walk around the room and check things out. Nothing's gonna hurt me. I'm rough. I'm tough. I'm the Hulk. Man, I'm bigger than anything here except maybe that big, dark thing that keeps getting closer